Okay, so what does the walnut look like? The walnut looks like your brain. So does that mean I'm nuts? Because this is what my brain looks like? I think it's confirmed. I'm nuts. Welcome everybody to the first of our new series, videos and audio. I'm so excited about this because in my brain at night when I can't sleep, I'm always thinking about different videos that I want to do, and some of the ones that I wanted to do were actually shorter ones, and then I was getting in my own way and thinking I only could do the longer ones, and it was a big mess. You may notice if you're watching the video that I am in my chef's outfit right now. It is a couple days before Easter and we are scrambling to get all the Easter stuff done, but we went to Costco the other night and had this kind of crazy shopping experience where we found all these things that I kind of need, and they were really reasonably priced. And so I thought, while the chocolate is setting and the Easter bunnies are doing their thing and the eggs are doing their things, I'm going to get on here really quick and do a video about activating nuts. So what the heck is activating nuts? When you buy nuts at a store, you typically get them in a big bag. We were able to get this bag of walnuts the other day, and they were actually really reasonably priced. Nuts is one of those items that can actually get quite expensive. And when you buy these nuts like this, yep, you can eat them just like this, or you can take it a step further. Now, why would you want to take it a step further? The step further is called activating the nuts. So by soaking for a set amount of time and then dehydrating the nuts, what you can do is you can actually get rid of the phytic acid and the enzyme inhibitors. For people that have a bit of trouble with nuts, and oftentimes, and this is why I wanted to use the walnuts to start with, walnuts is a challenging one for people because you'll eat the walnut and you'll get that kind of tingly sensation on the top of your mouth, and you're thinking, what the heck is going on? Oftentimes, it's because the walnuts are rancid. Walnuts are really high, oily nuts. We love them, but they're one of the nuts, along with like macadamia nuts, that will actually go off quite quickly. Things like cashews and Brazil nuts and almonds, those ones are shelf stable for a lot longer. Their oils, again, they have a big omega content in them, but I find with the walnuts, they're the ones that kind of off the scale a little bit faster. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to get the nuts ready so that you can do the dehydrating, and this is how you will get them activated. It's super simple. It literally takes 30 seconds to do. You take your nuts, you put them in a big bowl, and when I say a big bowl, you want a giant bowl. So because you're going to be filling it with enough water to cover the nuts that you've put in. So we're going to throw some nuts into the bowl. And then I have filtered water. We have on our faucet upstairs in the kitchen, we have a filtration so that we can filter out fluoride and other things that you don't want in your water. All I'm going to do is I'm going to pour enough water to cover my nuts, and that's it. I'm going to let them sit. Now, each nut has a different amount of time that you want to soak it for. And there are certain nuts that are softer that you don't really need to soak for a lot of time, especially to remove things like phytic acid and the enzyme inhibitors, which I will talk about in a second. With walnuts, 4 hours, maximum 6 hours is what you want to soak these for. Once you kind of go past that 4-hour mark, what you end up doing is you're adding more water in. And when you go to dehydrate it, then you just have to take more water out. So you're lengthening the amount of time that your walnuts or any of your other nuts are staying in the dehydrator if you actually are soaking them for longer than sort of the recommended amount. Brazil nuts, hazelnuts, macadamia nuts, those ones you can really just rinse. You can soak them for a little bit to soften them up, but for applications and recipes, most part, you can just kind of go with those ones. Walnuts, cashews, almonds are the ones that you definitely want to soak. Now, once I let this soak for 4 to 6 hours, I'm going to set my timer on my watch. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to rinse them off really well. please, please, for the love of everything holy, that water that is in your walnuts, you do not want to use it afterwards because it contains all of the things that you're trying to take out of the nuts so that you have better ease of digestibility, you have better bioavailability, and all of these things. So that water, out it goes. Don't drink it. I always would giggle in different restaurants that I worked at, and people were like, yeah, but couldn't we use the water for something? No. Now, if you're soaking dates to make them soft, yes, you can use that water. That water's full of nutrients. This water is full of the stuff that you don't want in your nuts. Now, once I finish soaking, I'm going to rinse them off. I'm going to just kind of go through the colander, kind of strain out the excess water, and then I'm going to put them onto the dehydrator, and then they'll sit for 12 to 24 hours. And what I'll do is after the 12 hours, I will check them, and then I will actually check them again if they're not quite done at that point, usually around the 18, 24-hour mark. It is okay if they stay in a little bit longer. That's not a problem at all. But let's go ahead and check out the dehydrator that I'm using so you can see what that looks like. I wanted to add a quick little note in case there's any confusion. The nuts that we're going to be working with to do the activation, these are raw nuts. So nuts that haven't been processed by heat or have had, seasonings or salt or anything added to them. They're just your plain straight up raw nuts. Typically that's why you're not going to be doing soaking or activating for things like peanuts, because most of the times peanuts don't come unprocessed. So we're talking about raw, unprocessed nuts, and that's what we're going to be activating. The rest of them, they've already had stuff done to them. There is no point to soak and dehydrate them. There are a lot of different dehydrators on the market. However, most people that are doing this kind of work where they're making either raw, gluten-free, vegan treats or doing things like activating their nuts, they're going to be using this dehydrator here. So this is an Excalibur dehydrator. I have two of them. I'm that way. It's okay. I love them both. But with this dehydrator, I actually got two different ones. They might look very similar, but this one here actually has on the top of it the indicators for both temperature, and it does have a timer on it. So you can buy ones with the timer, you can buy ones without the timer. Really, it's down to cost. The ones with the timers cost more. If you want to buy one without the timer, you can actually just buy one of those little timer gadgets that you can hook into the socket, and you can do a timer on these as well. So it will actually turn it off. Just like you could have lights on in your house, they'll turn on, turn off at different times. You can actually do that with the dehydrator. This one here is a 9 tray. If you are thinking of investing in a dehydrator, please get the 9 tray. You might be thinking, yeah, but the 5 tray is a lot cheaper. I don't know if I'm going to want to use it. The thing is, you're going to fall in love with it. I'm going to do a whole bunch more videos showing really super cool things you can do with your dehydrator. But if you get the smaller one, you're going to regret it. I've seen it so many times with people where they're like, no, I'm going to just buy the smaller one. And immediately they suddenly realize that when they want to make kale chips or granola bars, or even these activated nuts that we're going to be doing, they're kind of, I'm out of space. Inside your dehydrator, you have a tray. So each tray comes and it has a mesh on it. And so there's different applications. And again, once we do some more dehydrator sort of technique and work, I'm going to explain all of these. But for what we're doing today with the nuts, I'm actually going to put it right onto the mesh sheet. So we have 9 of these mesh tray sheets in here. And then I also have purchased extra of these sheets, and these are just called a T-Flex sheet. So they're a flexible sheet. Oh, I like that sound. A little ASMR for y'all. This sheet is for if you're making things like a fruit roll-up, or you're doing brownies or granola bars or stuff like that. On these, you can get them off and work with them, or if you're making, banana crepes. Let me tell you about banana crepes. Banana crepes are delightful. I used to make banana crepes. I used to be an athlete. I don't look like an athlete right now. If you're listening, you're like, she sounds like an athlete. But when I used to do a lot of mountain bike races and adventure races, I'd make these banana pancakes, crepe things, and I make them in the dehydrator. They were so delicious. They tasted like a banana bread. And so what I would do is I roll them up because they were almost like fruit roll up kind of consistency, and I just put them inside the side of my shorts. They were always available if I got hungry. They were just right there. And some people were like, Colleen, that's super gross. Let me tell you, when you're out in the middle of the desert for 3 days racing, you don't care. You don't care anymore. But if I was to put the batter for things like banana pancakes or fruit roll-ups on the mesh sheet, obviously it would just leak through. So these T-Flex sheets are really great for making sure that everything stays where it should be. And then once it gets to the point where it has dehydrated enough, you can actually pull it off the T-Flex sheet and put it onto the mesh and finish up the rest of it. So then you'll get all the spots that might be a little bit wet. With the nuts, once they're done soaking for 4 hours, I'm going to put them in here at 118 degrees, and I will set the timer for 12 hours. And then once the timer goes off, I will check them again, and I will show you the finished product when we get to it tomorrow. So why do we even want to get rid of phytic acid and enzyme inhibitors? And you're probably like, I don't even know what either of those two things are. So each of them is a property in the nuts, kind of like to protect the nuts. Nuts don't want you to eat them. They want to be free in the world doing nutty things. Just kidding. But it is a bit of a protection mechanism. So phytic acid, what is phytic acid? It's actually the outer layer of the nuts and the seeds. So it binds to minerals like calcium and magnesium and iron, and it makes nuts less available for absorption. So by activating nuts, you actually can reduce the phytic acid content. You can actually increase the bioavailability. Now, what are enzyme inhibitors? Enzyme inhibitors can interfere with the body's ability to digest and absorb nutrients. So when you activate the nuts, which is what we're doing by soaking and dehydrating them, you actually help to break down those inhibitors, and it again makes nuts a bit easier to digest, and the body can absorb more nutrients from them. So it might seem like a bit of a process to actually do the nut activation and to do the soaking and everything, but the benefits of it are absolutely incredible. Okay, so this has now been soaking for 4 hours, and you can see this water. You do not want to drink this water. Again, the soak water needs to be thrown out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these into the kitchen, and we're going to strain them, and then we're going to put them on the dehydrator sheets. Okay, so I have all the trays done. I'm just putting the last tray in now, and then I'll just put this handy dandy cover on the top. It's going to sit overnight, and I'm actually going to set the timer for 18 hours just because it's actually a little bit later at night that I'm starting this. So that way I don't have to get up in the middle of the night. The nuts are fine to stay, even if they go to more than 12 hours, that's okay. And when they come out tomorrow, I'll show you the final product, and they'll be nice and crispy and delicious. Okay, welcome back. So it is the next day, and I just wanted you guys to hear. So that's about how loud the dehydrator is. It's actually pretty quiet. So I'll go ahead and turn it off. So these nuts have been sitting since yesterday. So I put them in around 8 o'clock last night. And so they were in for 16 hours. We actually had an appointment this morning, so I didn't have time to deal with them. But that's okay because you can just leave them. It's not like they're going to over dry out or anything like that. The dehydrator is nice and warm, but not too warm because again, it only goes to about 118 degrees. And when we open it up, we're going to get to see how great and tasty the nuts look. Okay, so just taking off the front lid of the dehydrator. And I've got all my trays in here nice, and the smell has been wonderful overnight. I mean, who doesn't love walnut smell? It's delicious. So I'm just going to go grab one of the bigger nuts. So taking it out, what I'm looking for, put it near the microphone. Oh yeah, that nice snappy crunch. And I'll do a close-up. Basically, you want the nut to not look like there's any wetness inside it. And you'll be able to tell, especially with something like a walnut, a pecan, or anything like that. When you open it up, you'll actually see a gradient inside it. So if it still has moisture in it, you'll be able to see the outer compared to the inner, and you'll see sort of like a little line where it looks like it's a little bit wet still. These are perfectly done. Oh, so crunchy. Wonderful. What I'm going to do with them now is I'm going to let them cool down. So I actually have to go and do a bunch of errands and let them cool down. They're not super hot. I mean, it's 118 degrees, so it's not very warm. But when I get back, to store the nuts, because this is a big amount of walnuts that I purchased, I want them to last longer. And this is, with everything that we're doing with food, we want things to last. We don't want to be wasting food. We don't want to buy food that, oh shoot, I bought 2 kilos of something and I can't use it and I got to throw it away. So to maximize the shelf life of these nuts so that they don't start excreting oils again and kind of get that weird rancid taste to them, like I said, where you get sort of the top of your mouth feels a bit weird. What we're going to do is I'm going to actually put them into a freezer safe container, and I'm going to put them in the freezer. I don't have anything that I'm making with this amount right away, but in a couple of weeks, I have a couple of recipes that I want to make using the walnuts, but now they're ready to go. I did buy a few other types of nuts the other day, so I'm actually going to do the exact same process with them. Now, these are great for snacks. They're great for recipes. You could, at this point, if you wanted to, you could candy them. I'm going to show a quick tutorial on how to do that. Obviously not in this one because we're keeping these short, but you could use them in salads. You could also use them in desserts. If you needed to make a gluten-free crust, say, for something like tarts, you could use walnuts combined with dates, some kind of sweetener binder, etc. And just using them in your regular baking. They're going to taste very fresh. They're going to taste really like the nice crispness to it. And it might seem like a bit of a stretch to do this process, but it's well worth it. So I hope that was informative. I'm going to get these nuts into their container in a little bit. And yeah, I think that's all for today. Thanks, everyone.